The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It is a Thursday. It is a big Thursday. We've got a big show tonight over at Elsewhere Brewing. If you want to get in, you are going to have to ask because we are up against capacity tonight. Fun show with the Argentine consulate here in Atlanta. Fun show with special guests from Atlanta United. Going to be a good one. We start at 7 o'clock. The festivities at Elsewhere start before that. We will be on air on Twitch at 7 o'clock. So go ahead and mark that one down. Set yourself a reminder. Bunch of stuff on the show today as well. We've got Jessica Charman making her return to SDH at 9:30. We've got Niko Moreno for his weekly spot at 10:30. He had a big game to watch last night in front of him in Seattle. A classic in the CCL. Seattle's in a good spot, but they're not completely comfortable with a 2-goal lead. They did concede an away goal. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. A bunch of games last night. One game kicking off in less than 2 hours as Charleston and South Georgia Tormenta got pushed back to this morning because of storms in the Charleston area. Talk about a couple of cup sets. We'll talk Champions League and Karim Benzema playing like the best forward in the world right now with a hat trick against Chelsea. Chelsea's in big trouble going to Madrid in the second leg. Villarreal pulls the upset at home against Bayern. Is it enough? Probably not. But is it a great story for Unai Emery, John's favorite manager? Yes, it should be. Maybe he will give him some respect. Probably not. I'm sure he's going to give Sean Dyche a lot of respect in Burnley because they just made things very interesting for Everton yesterday. And I will just say that it was a very weird dichotomy going back and forth between Real Madrid and Chelsea, Everton and Burnley. I think it was the same sport. I think. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think it was. Fascinating drama with a late goal for Burnley. They get 1 point away from Everton in that relegation battle, and Everton's in big trouble. We got news and rumors. Erik ten Hag's looking closer and closer to taking over the job at Manchester United. What does that mean for the Red Devils? What's next for them? We got all kinds of stories. But Jarrett, we're going to start with you. We did have a follow-up today on the effective playing time in matches in top leagues around the world, and we learned that Scotland is the lowest. Why?
Because they have a bunch of teams who don't like to play. They're scared.
Basically.
And then when they do want to play, everyone gets scared again, and then they regress. What else do you want?
I mean, it's crazy that Scotland has effective playing time a full 6 minutes or so less than Serie A, who has the most of all the major leagues since 2018. I didn't expect that.
It's very frustrating considering Scotland's history with the game, you know?
Yeah, it is.
So disappointing. It happens. See if anybody else wants to try and change that other than Aj. And Rangers. Rangers likes to have fun too.
Yeah, they don't like to defend very much.
No, but that's what makes it fun, ironically.
It's true.
Scotland. I knew what I was getting myself into with this as a child or as a teenager, and it never got any better.
It was a little disappointing to see that because that's not what Scottish football was known for in its heyday, and it's disappointing that that's what it is now. We've got some other stuff to get into as well. The Sunbelt Conference is back with men's soccer, and man, it's a good conference.
It's Georgia a murderer's State, row.
Georgia Southern come back to the Sunbelt after a year in the MAC, but because of men's soccer and which conferences don't have it, you got South Carolina and Tony Annan in there. You got West Virginia in there. You got Marshall, who's won a national championship in there. You got Coastal Carolina, who's made runs there, an existing Sunbelt team. It's going to be a blast. Kentucky is in there, which is a strong men's soccer program. So if you're looking for good college soccer in the Atlanta area, you got Georgia State hosting some big games coming up this fall. That was great news. And you'll see Tony Annan bring his Gamecocks down. They'll be coming over from South Carolina. That'll get interesting. Bunch of like odds and ends today. We got some updates on the World Cup bid in 2026 and who's going to get what. FedEx Field in Washington, or more technically in Landover, got very low marks on its official review from FIFA. So it's to the point that they might just not play games in the nation's capital, which I don't know if that's ever happened in World Cup history. I don't think it has. I mean, last time you played at RFK in 94, but I don't think you've had this situation in any other country in the world. Baltimore and Washington might basically combine their bids. The games would be at M&T Bank in Baltimore. They do some ancillary events in DC, like fan festivals and training centers and such. Dallas is also talking, and Dan Hunt of FC Dallas is talking about a realistic chance that AT&T Stadium could get the World Cup final. I don't think it's realistic. I think that's either going to be an LA or a New York thing. Probably New York this time because LA had it last time. But I do think Dallas can get a semifinal. I mean, AT&T Stadium's pretty ridiculous. So big money. FIFA likes money, John. So I would assume that they will want to get a big game in that venue.
Yeah, and when you can clock north of six figures and have another 5 to 10,000 outside in the party areas that are designated, if you can sit there and bring in 105 to 110 for a particular semifinal, then yes, you are going to do it. But no, I don't think that Dallas ends up getting a final. I think that they'll get a semi. I don't think that they'll go all the way to the end of the prospectus.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I really think MetLife is going to get it in the New York area because I just don't think they'll do two in LA. Although, I mean, look, the Rose Bowl is a great venue. It's historic. They've had one before. SoFi is pretty ridiculous in and of itself. So could it happen? Sure. My money would be on MetLife. We'll see where that goes. When you talk about semifinals, though, okay, if one of those have a final and Dallas gets a semifinal, won't they probably have another semifinal in the losing finalist spot? And then that would bump Atlanta out of a potential semifinal spot, which they have bid for, which I would hate to see because I'd love to see a semifinal World Cup match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But it is tough competition. It's going to get interesting as these things get decided, and we should get announcements at some point in the near future. You had Copa Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana last night, teams that we talk about a good bit. Defensa y Justicia went to Chile and won at Antofagasta. 3-1, big win for Sebastian Becasese and his side. You had Red Bull Bragantino win 2-0 against Nacional. That's a bit of a statement for them. The Red Bull empire is getting stronger in Brazil right now. Independiente del Valle won 2-0 over America Mineiro. And then probably the big headline of the night, sadly, Robert Rojas with a nasty leg break for River Plate. Fracture of the tibia and fibula, was almost a compound fracture from some reports. They just showed him on Teise being helped out of the, I don't think it's the hospital. It might be the hospital. It might be the hotel in Lima. They got to get him back to Buenos Aires. 1-0 win for River. Ezequiel Barco started in that one, played well in the first half and into the second half. But River with a huge loss of Rojas and a nasty injury. And don't go find the replays of that. Don't waste your time. You don't need to see that. Let's get into the Open Cup last night while we got Jarrett for another 15 minutes or so. You had some cup sets, Jarrett. I know you were pretty excited about some of these. Your boys, FC Motown, they got the win over the Syracuse Pulse in extra time.
They did, and they were playing in it looked like Silent Hill last night. Like it was pretty bleak outside. But it was a
dark, foggy night.
Oh, it was. It was pretty bleak, but they go ahead and they get the win, and they got another cup set on their hands, and Nisa lost, and now FC Motown looking like one of those teams you need to watch if you're looking for your Cinderella. really good performance from them. And it's got to be tough playing that into, I think the 93rd minute was when the goal was scored.
96 went to extra time.
96 minute. Yeah, who's counting? Yeah, I know it went to extra time because then you got to play for 90 plus minutes. It's already tiring.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get a goal. Great, cool, we're in good shape. What do we have to do? You have to defend for another 25 minutes against a team that's going to be coming at you. And they were able to do so. So good work from them.
Yeah, I mean, Motown's not a pro team. They don't train like a pro team.
No.
The goalkeeper's a plumber and probably had to work today. So, like, it's a different level of fitness issue late in these games. And remember, they played extra time against Westchester. Then that game's thrown out because of the illegal substitutions. Then they played them on Friday and won in a very close game. And then they have to go extra time here. I mean, those guys are going to be hurting today. But that's a well-coached team. Sasha Hott, who has been with the Red Bulls organization in the past, played for them. He's got a good NPSL team with FC Motown and a team to watch because they've got some former pros in there. They've got some pedigree. They're not an easy out in the third round where they will face possibly an MLS team. Other results, Rio Grande Valley went on the road, fell behind at the end of the first half to North Carolina FC, turned it around 1-2-1. That's a USL championship team beating a USL League One. USL League One Richmond Kickers defeated Nova FC, one of the local qualifiers, Northern Virginia. Won that one on the road 1-0. The Miami FC, all caps, the Miami FC. Dominated Miami United 3-0. Western Mass Pioneers, a USL League 2 team, tried to pull a cup set, weren't able to do it against Flower City Union of Nisa. That game got kind of crazy at the end. You had a stamping incident by a Flower City player who got sent off with about 10 minutes to go, and Western Mass wasn't able to take advantage of it. Louisville City, John, I thought showed their quality in a 1-0 win over Chattanooga Red Wolves. Red Wolves fought them hard. It took 75 minutes for Lou City to find the breakthrough, but 6 games into their season in all competitions, Louisville City's only conceded 1 time.
Yeah, and Wilson Harris got the goal for Lou City in that one at Lynn Family. And, I mean, Chattanooga had chances in both halves. They had chances, a couple that were skied over the bar, and they just didn't close the deal when they had those chances to do it in the first half specifically. And then Harris gets one, and then you're trying to get an equalizer for the final 15 minutes. It didn't happen. But, yeah, I mean, Lou City's defense has been tremendous so far, regardless of the competition that we're talking about. But a good showing for Chattanooga last night in Open Cup as well on the road in a very tough place to play.
Forward Madison, 3-0 winners over Cleveland SC of the NPSL. That was pretty comfortable. Cleveland really struggled to keep up with the Flamingos. Switchbacks in the Battle of Colorado, they were not able to take advantage of a fairly early red card by Northern Colorado. USL League One, Hailstorm, beat the Switchbacks of USL Championship 1-0. Jerry Desdunis with a goal in the 96th. Desdunis played for Peachtree City MOBA and for KSA Pro Profile in the last year here locally in the Atlanta area. You had a red card from a Hailstorm player who threw an elbow at a player, kind of grabbed him, caught him in the chest, upper chest area, then spun around when the guy tried to grab him again and caught him with a forearm to the jaw. Easy red card decision to give. Switchbacks weren't able to take advantage. It goes to extra time. 2 Hailstorm coaches were sent off. The game finished 10-10. Hailstorm had a short bench, but somehow they got through this. I know, Jarrett, you were watching some of the USOC After Dark and enjoying this one.
I was. It's something about the USOC in Colorado, apparently, with visiting players losing their minds and coaches getting sent off and results not going the host's way. I think the Rapids and Switchbacks and anyone who's in Colorado, if the visitor comes in, even if they're from Colorado, if the visitor comes in, gets someone sent off in an insane way, and then proceeds to have coaches sent off, you're in a danger zone that you're not really ready for.
You want no part of that.
No.
FC Tucson pulled a cup set in a crazy back and forth game with the Las Vegas Lights. I believe no llamas were allowed in Arizona for this one. But Tucson scored in the 45th. Then the Lights scored in the 66th. Then Tucson got an own goal in the 71st to go up 2-1. They made it 3-1. The Lights pulled one back 3 minutes later in the 80th, so finished 3-2 FC Tucson. They will go through out of USL League One, and the championship lights go out. Phoenix Rising, it was not easy for Phoenix Rising against Valley United, a new NISA team. Jeffrey O'Toole, former Atlanta United signee, is with Valley United. 115th minute for Phoenix Rising to find a winner, John.
That's crazy. And I know that a lot of folks sit there and they're looking at Phoenix Rising with their pedigree over the last handful of years in the USL Championship. Phoenix has gotten off to a bit of a slow start this season in USL Championship out west. So, maybe, and I know that Valley probably opened the door to this thought pattern, is that maybe Phoenix can be had in an early round. But sometimes when you're in an early round and you're tested and you go all the way to the wall before you get a win, this is one of those things that could be one of those motivators as well for Phoenix Rising in a tournament format that could also help them in USL Championship, not just in Open Cup play.
NISA did get a cup set on the board. They had a win earlier in the night with Flower City. They got a cup set over Monterey Bay, new team in USL Championship, 2-1. Bay Cities FC of NISA had a 91st minute second half stoppage time goal to win this after Monterey Bay had equalized in the 87th. So kind of a wild one in the Bay Area. A wild one in San Diego as well. I watched some of this one early, and Albion, all capitals, Albion, San Diego. I don't know why they went stylized like that. They did
because they can.
Yeah, but it's not a good idea, Jarrett. And they did get the idea from. No, it's nothing to do with the cup. This is just their name in general everywhere. It's not the cup.
But then do you have to say it, the Miami FC? Do you have to sit there and say Albion when you're trying to have that kind of emphasis as well? Is that what they're looking for? If it's all stylized?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe. So yell it next time. But they had a player who was bound and determined to get sent off in the 3rd minute. Got a sneaky forearm on a guy's jaw, and the ref couldn't see it. Then that player got a yellow a few minutes later. I mean, it was a wild physical game early, and it ends up needing an 89th minute winner on a set piece for San Diego Loyal. They go through over who, John?
Albion.
Thank you. You wanted to do it. I'm just setting you up for it.
I was just asking.
No, you wanted to do it. It's okay. We know how it goes. We've been through this before with teams in Belgium.
You made his day. Just know that you made his day.
I know. Okay. That's why I set it up. That's why I did it.
Albion.
Okay, just one time though. We're not talking about them. They're out of the tournament, John.
So we don't have to talk about them anymore.
Okay, so don't say it 3 times. Okay, Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup today, 11 o'clock, ESPN Plus. Charleston Battery hosting South Georgia Tormenta. No fans allowed. I don't really know exactly the story behind that one. I know there's been storms, but I think everything's okay functionally in the stands. I don't know. It is an 11 o'clock kick, a businessman special. Isn't that what they call them, Jared?
In baseball, sure. Also,
we're going to call it that for the Open Cup. I know. That's why I stole it. We're going to steal it, and we're going to call it that in Charleston. They host Tormenta. 11 o'clock. That thing got moved like 3 times, so it is 11 now. 4 o'clock today, Rochester, New York. The former Rochester Rhinos, Jamie Vardy, we're still angry with you. You are hosting the Lansdowne
You're not forgiven,
boys.
Jamie.
No, he's not. They have to beat the Lansdowne boys here to get some shred of dignity here, but I don't think they can pull that off until they reinstate the Rhino mascot. Rochester, New York, facing a local qualifier, Lansdowne boys, who's made noise in this tournament before. Chattanooga FC tonight, 7 o'clock, hosting Memphis 901 in a NISA versus USL Championship in-state battle. Greenville Triumph hosting the longest trip of the second round. The Oakland Roots of USL Championship have to go to Greenville and play a USL League One team. That's a really interesting game to me. I don't know where that goes. The Roots have started out pretty well this year, right?
Yeah, and they've had a couple of their matches at Laney. They haven't had to chase after a home venue, and I think that stability is also added to it with what we've seen out of the blocks. Getting a couple of matches under your belt in one location, not having to race all over the planet trying to find a home venue.
Yeah, having no turf issues this year, which is a good thing for Oakland. My cup set special is Oyster Bay United. They are at Hartford Athletic, same place where they knocked out another Hartford team in the first round. Oyster Bay is at Hartford. I don't think we have numbers. Oh, we do. Oyster Bay is a plus 1,200. Ooh. I'm going to have to throw some juice boxes at Oyster Bay. If somebody will take juice boxes on Oyster Bay. Birmingham.
Numbers, those places should be able to take the juice boxes.
Yeah, they might be. I don't know if they'll take actual juice boxes because I'm not throwing anything real at that game. Come on, it's Oyster Bay. Birmingham Legion hosting Southern States, and Southern States is an even bigger one, plus 2,000 on the board, heading over from Hattiesburg, Mississippi to go to Birmingham. This is do not be surprised if this game is close. Southern States is not a typical NPSL team. They have went the semi-pro-ish kind of route, which you can do in NPSL. You just can't have current college players. They've got former pros, I know, in there. I'm assuming, I don't know their business structure, but I'm assuming that guys who have played professionally in the past 12 months to go to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to play for Southern States are probably earning a check of some sort. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not anything under the table.
Plus 3,400 on the board.
What's that?
You can get Southern States at plus 3,400.
Yeah, because nobody knows who they are. But I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with them paying players. They just can't have current college guys, and they don't. They've got guys who are professional level talents. So it's not a typical NPSL team. They're not a USL championship team, and Birmingham should take care of business, but they're going to get tested. Out west, California United Strikers of NISA, they host San Fernando Valley at 10:30, and the Sacramento Republic host the Portland Timbers U23s at 10:30. And as always comes up with the Timbers U23s, they're not a second team. They are an amateur team. You can't have players move back and forth between the Timbers and the U23s. That's why this team can participate in this tournament. Jarrett, we got the draw on Friday for the third round. Atlanta United goes into it there. Charlotte FC goes into it there. We're going to talk about Open Cup with Jessica Charman here in just a second. But who are you kind of looking at as possible regional configurations here for Atlanta United in the third round?
Charleston Battery is always a call if they get through today. Tormenta
definitely would be if they
show, man. Please, for our friends in South Georgia, I would be eternally tickled if Atlanta United has to go play in Statesboro. We might have to reach out to Darren Van Tassel about that one if that happens.
Oh no, we would be all over that one, Jared.
Yeah, we're all going to Statesboro. Charleston Battery is always a shout there. Theoretically, Tampa Bay Rowdies would be a shout, although I think that you're lining that up with Orlando just because it's going to be a rock fight. Birmingham Legion, if they get through, are a really good shout. Same with Southern States. You're keeping it generally regionalized. It's easier on the smaller teams financially, especially if they do have to travel, because you don't want some small team out west having to travel all the way to the East Coast to play, and it's a lot of money.
You probably will have somebody, because like we see with Oakland this time, you just have some where the geography doesn't completely match up.
Yeah.
So that could happen. You could see Tormenta, if they get through, they could get bumped down to Florida, with Tampa Bay, with Orlando, with Miami. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can spin it, but hopefully we see some different opponents this time around.
Exactly.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, God bless Charleston Battery. I just don't want to see him anymore. We've seen him enough.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I don't want to see
someone
this
else
iteration of the Charleston Battery, because they're not a fun team to play against.
Yeah, there's that.
They're going to cause somebody a problem. If they get through and Connor Casey gets a little more time with this group, I mean, they are like the exaggerated version of Philadelphia and Red Bulls and all of that. And speaking of Philadelphia and displeasure with playing Philadelphia, let's bring Jessica Charman into the mix right now. What's up, Jess?
Hello. Great introduction, Jason. I think that your texts have been blowing up from me complaining about having to call that match, because it was an S show, to put it lightly. So difficult to find words to describe and keep it polite. You don't want to be too degrading or derogative. I have some good friends with the union, and I didn't want to be too slanderous, but at the same time, boy, oh boy, it's no fun.
Give it a few games in the books, Jess, and then you'll find some new vocabulary to use for sure. Been down that road a little bit. I wanted Jared to talk about this a little bit, but he just ran out the door. He got afraid of you.
I scared him off.
Yeah,
I scared him off.
It happens. But Open Cup is coming up, and Charleston's a team. Look, I mean, you could easily see Charleston. You saw them in preseason with Charlotte, and they're a lot better now. And they are that kind of a team. They are that team that you get on a Tuesday night, and you're kind of like, nah, whatever. It's Open Cup. We should handle this, and they're just going to press you into oblivion. It's not a fun cup matchup.
No, but you know what? I think there's a lot of people that would like to see that battle. I think we'll take them if they make it through. We'll take them away from Atlanta United because that's definitely one that's got a little bit of a vengeance to it. There's a lot of people that were very frustrated with how we performed. Obviously, in Charleston, it was a different Charlotte FC side. It's a different Charleston side now, but when you talk about the growth of Charlotte FC from that match to where they were, Jarrett came back.
Yeah, he ran back.
I thought that was the goodbye message.
No, I was trying to commiserate over Charleston and such, and you ran out the door.
He's trying to do a ball pass, man.
I don't want to watch Charleston anymore. Thank you.
I told you we'll take them. We will take them because I think it would be nice to right the wrong of the performance against them in our first, match where we had a crowd. And also, if you get them away, you're going to get a huge traveling contingency, which always makes it very fun. So, and you know what? I wouldn't mind going down to Charleston and, spending some time eating some seafood while I watch the team as well.
That's not a bad away trip at all.
This is the right approach.
But the Open Cup is going to provide an interesting opportunity for Miguel Angel Ramirez, who, we've had the conversation about the roster, et cetera, et cetera. We're past all that because he's shown he can get a lot out of what he's got. But you got some players in that team, Jess, that, haven't seen the field a ton. And an Open Cup game would be a great opportunity for them to show Ramirez, hey, you can count on me in big games that count.
Definitely. I think it's an exciting time, particularly with the rule. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but a limit on non-American players in Open.
No, that's been taken away now.
That's been taken away.
That has been removed.
Well, that puts a fiddle in it because I would expect that you play some of your players that haven't got as many minutes. But I don't know. I think it's something that if you're looking at MLS being very, very difficult to compete in and get a chance at a run in, let's be realistic. Playoffs is an outside opportunity. It's something that we would like to achieve. But is it realistic over the long course of the season? You're not sure. Maybe you throw your eggs into Open Cup. Maybe that's where you do want to play your strong side rather than weakening things up because who knows? If that's your chance at silverware, if that's your chance to compete, I feel like Charlotte FC can really compete with any team on their given day. If they come out and they prepare, they have quality on their roster that can damage you. They have a fantastic manager. Perhaps that cup system of, needing to do well for 90 minutes and then move on to the next one, recover, prepare, might be favorable for a new side. But you're right, Jason, there's several players that are still on this roster. I would love to see George Marks, the goalkeeper out of Clemson, a national championship winner, get another opportunity. He had a real difficult time in Charleston in the cup down there. I think it was a lot to expect of a young guy to come into a very fresh side. Perhaps he performs better with a more experienced defensive line now. I would love to see Anton Hawks get some more time. We know that he only got 45 minutes against Philadelphia Union. The tides have definitely changed for him. He's not used to being on the bench. He was ever present for Atlanta United. So a really tough blow for him coming into this squad. Perhaps that's an opportunity for him to come out and prove himself. He got the 45 minutes against the Union. I know a lot of Atlanta United fans will be concerned that he got taken off when the formation changed, but at the same time, he was the defender with the least experience in that back line. So you've got Koa Santos, another the Hawaiian boy that hasn't stepped on the foot on the field yet. But if you're keeping him around, even with this new link with Charlotte Independence, that means you see something in him.
Yeah.
If you're not loaning him out yet. So you're right, Jason. It could be an interesting time, but I'd also be interested to see, particularly with the ambition. We've all seen Nick Kelly on Twitter, very vocal and ambitious would be a polite way to put it. So maybe this is something that he sees himself. Okay, well, if MLS Cup isn't realistic, maybe this is something that we can really put a challenge into and make a statement.
So then, Jess, let me ask you this. When it comes to the folks that you'd like to see, more of, Open Cup gives you that opportunity. Of the folks that have been there front and center for you in these first handful of matches for Charlotte FC, who has surprised you the most with their output in the matches so far for you?
I think you go with Ben Bender, because how often do you see rookies shine? Obviously, Atlanta United had Julian Gressel shine, but it's not something that's that common to see people have an impact. Now, anyone that watched the Philadelphia Union game knew that was a bit of a wake-up call for the young guy. He's been spectacular in the times he's performed, but playing against Philadelphia Union isn't fun for anybody. He struggled a bit with the physicality. He struggled a bit with the disruptiveness and how quick they are to get on your back, and that was a wake-up call for him. But I'm excited to see how he responds. If he gets the start against Atlanta United, this is an opportunity to show, hey, I can bounce back. Christian Kalina, the goalkeeper, another one that not many of us has heard of. I'd watched some show tape, but wasn't sure. Let's be honest. Highlight reels, particularly for goalkeepers, can be very, very misleading. You can't get a full cusp of a goalkeeper until you watch the full 90 minutes performance week in, week out. Brilliant, bar the error. But again, is that error the wake-up call you need against Atlanta United to now not be playing it around all the time in stupid areas, having the freedom to go long at times? I love Alan Franco. Again, another player that I wasn't sure how he would adjust to MLS. A lot of people say it takes time to get up to the style of play, to the physicality. I think he slotted right in, along with Guzman Corujo, the Uruguayan. I've told Jason that he gives me remnants of LGP in some of his play. However, seems to have his head on his shoulders a little bit more in terms of the firepower that often got LGP, very often, I should say, in the referee's booking. So I think he has a lot of the passion that Atlanta United fans would see with former Gonzalo Perez, but at the same time, I think he's got a bit more of his head on his shoulders. So I've been impressed with those players that have stood out. Karos Federski has the ability to be brilliant, but it doesn't work when he's a lone forward. It just doesn't work right now. He needs the likes of Daniel Rios. I think that's a fantastic signing. Jason, I remember you texting me the minute we signed him saying this is a good signing. He's been an unsung hero, hasn't got his break or his opportunity. When the two of them play together, they do a fantastic job, but I don't know if Karos Federski can play as a lone striker. So I think the 4-4-2 right now is suiting us better with the personnel we have.
Looking at the roster setup and the guys coming in for Charlotte, even those people aren't watching every single game here, they're keeping up with as Charlotte develops. I know the reports coming out of Kamil Jozwiak. I apologize if I butchered that.
I've still got to work on it, don't worry. And I have an Eastern European co-commentator. Will should be the expert at those. So I always defer to Will on my pronunciations.
So I know the reports were we probably won't see him this week because he's coming in healthy, but what should we look for with him when he is getting up to speed?
Well, he's a winger, which is fascinating because that's something, again, that Miguel Angel Ramirez loves to play with. However, as Jason and I talked about yesterday on Stoppage Time, do you want to change the entire formation of a squad just because you have one quality winger in, if it's not something that you can necessarily create with balance of the other players? So I'm interested to see how adaptable he is. He's had a tough time at Derby. Obviously, Derby with their points deduction, they've been performing incredibly and battling in every match, but it's a different mentality. You have to develop that physical thick skin when you're playing with a complete underdog. Perhaps that mentality is something that Charlotte FC needs as well. I like that he's used to the battle. He's used to the grind. Wayne Rooney, I don't think is comparable to Miguel Angel Ramirez. I think that may be an interesting adjustment going from playing under Rooney to Ramirez. But I think he's going to offer some speed and some strength and some good delivery. And I'm obviously excited about that Polish connection. We mentioned that Karos Federski's done well to link up with Daniel Rios. Now you throw into the mix someone that he's got experience with playing in the national team with, that you have that soccer culture of playing for your homeland. I think it'll be interesting. And he arrives on Thursday. Who knows? Maybe he gets on the match day roster. We don't know yet. We were told by Zoran Kaneta that it would be ambitious, but we've seen it happen. We've seen Daniel Rios was signed, I think, the day before he made his appearance. So you just never know.
I think what's so interesting about Charlotte to me, and Josviak brings another element to it. They've played a 4-3-3. I think they started in a 3-4-3, if I'm not mistaken, then broke out the 4-3-3 against Atlanta last time out, then played a 4-4-2 a couple of times, then went 3-4-3 again. When you add Josviak to it, you're getting a true winger, which I outside of Ortiz, who he seemed to really prefer playing centrally, you haven't really had that. And you're right. I agree with you on Swiderski. Like, he needs that partner. How does Ramirez solve this? Or is it just going to be a work in progress until he really
trial and
figures out
error.
what he's got? Yeah.
I think it's trial. But I did see, and it's from Top Bin 90. I'm sure you've seen him in Charlotte FC. He's
great
got
account
some
to follow
inside
for all the
loops.
Charlotte
Fantastic account. Someone said that Gabby Obertan was at practice yesterday.
Again.
Yeah, back. So that could be interesting. One of the main issues with him was that he was going to take up an international spot that they weren't willing to sacrifice on an aging player. We did see him. He did well during his trial period, just wasn't probably worth that international spot. So I have to wonder whether, and this is all gossip, so I can't confirm true or false, but if he's at training, you have to wonder if something has been resolved on a green card perspective, or whether they are thinking, well, if we can't get someone in with that positioning, maybe we give him a second chance. So, like I said, I know he's aging, but I was impressed with him during preseason. But again, it's preseason. That's not the real run of the test in the MLS. But it could be an interesting one if you're looking to get another winger on board with the arrival of your DP winger. Interesting timing.
You guys could be going from no wingers to like 3 or 4, and then Ramirez has got a lot of options.
Hey, I think he would take the depth. He would definitely take the depth.
Sure.
But Titi Ortiz, man, that's one that I've just been a bit disappointed with, particularly with having that relationship between him and Ramirez. He just hasn't adjusted as well as the likes of Alan Franco. So I'm hoping that the patience that Ramirez has will favor him. I think he's being very careful about not putting him in to struggle, bringing him in the last 10, 15 minutes to get some minutes, because he does have quality. There's no doubt about it. He's got a great shot. He's got a good touch. He's just not playing with a player with as much confidence as someone with his ability should. And you guys know, if a player doesn't have confidence or belief, or doesn't look 100% when they step on the pitch, it puts him in a really difficult position to fail.
Since you're reading my notes, Jess, I'll go to my next question on since you took my TT Ortiz question away. Miguel Angel Ramirez, what has it been like to see him on a match-by-match basis work the kitchen the way that he has, with all of the cupboard not being as stacked as we've talked about pretty much ever since day one? But what's it been like to see him work with what he's had to get the results that Charlotte FC have been able to get this season?
I think people are probably tired of the superlatives that I used to describe the man, because I was excited. I had heard, again, I mentioned Jason, but when Jason tells me I'm going to like someone, I usually trust him. And he told me I was going to enjoy him as a coach. And the minute I met him in a press conference and listened to him speak in person, he's so academic with the game. He is so knowledgeable, so articulate, very strong in his beliefs, very vocal in his beliefs, very honest, as we saw on multiple levels, very honest with how he feels about things. But I love that. And watching his mobility during matches, he is living and breathing every second of the match on the touchline. He is, his body language. I'm excited for Jason to watch him in person, because there's another level of energy that he brings with urging his team to step forward. And I think when you're a player, and I've had several good managers during my career, but when you have a manager that is living and breathing the match on the sideline with you, it just makes you want to work that much harder. And he's getting the best out of the players. When you hear like players talk about him and the respect they have for him, that's how you know he's going to get the best out of every individual. No player has had, and I know players can't openly criticize their manager, but they don't have to be as vocally positive towards him as they are. Every time a player gets praised on their performance, they find a way to wind it back to their manager and the inspiration he has, the trust he creates. And like I say, I don't have the superlatives to describe him. I think he's fantastic. And I will step back. I think he made a mistake against the Philadelphia Union. I think that he adjusted too much to appease Philadelphia and tried to go very defensive instead of playing what was working for them. And what did he do? At halftime, He flipped it 180 degrees. He made the halftime substitute. He's done that in several matches. He's not afraid. You saw against Atlanta United, a double substitution at halftime. He's not afraid to make those big sacrificing changes that show that, hey, I as a manager maybe put the wrong personnel in this battle. I need to adjust it. And I think that's a real testimony to his personality.
Jarrett, before you jump in, I want to touch on that because Philadelphia, going back to Philly and how difficult they can be. Gabriel Heinze talked about this, and I think Heinze had a lot of the same kind of ideas. He didn't have maybe the personality to bring them across as well as Ramirez is, but a lot of the same ideas about the way to play. And him and his staff talked about it last year after they played Philly. It's like, we don't see teams like this in South America. Teams don't play this way in Ecuador, in Brazil, in Argentina. So until you really see it, you don't really know how to deal with it. That was a tough one for Ramirez.
I think it's a welcome to the league. You know,
Okay.
It's a welcome to the league, an adjustment. And next time you face them, I think you're more prepared. And you're right, Jason. This
You'll have more
style
ideas.
of play doesn't thrive in many other countries. There would be a lot of fan bases that probably wouldn't be okay with their team.
You would get run out of Ecuador and Brazil so fast if you played that way. Oh, my goodness.
So I wanted you to take off your commentator hat for a minute and put on your goalkeeper hat again and go back to your old days, because the league has seen Christian Kalina now just make some stupid saves. When we're watching him, what do you notice about him that people who haven't experienced life in between the sticks, what have you noticed about him that he does well that we can look for as kind of little nuanced things that make him so good?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it's his ability to talk with his defenders. A very underrated trait of a goalkeeper is that vocal leadership that you have to have at the back. The minute he stepped on that pitch, you could tell his relationship between his defenders and himself was one of trust, which is really important. And I think that's why he gets away with the error he makes. If you're a goalkeeper that hasn't earned the respect or the confidence of your back line, then if you make an error like that, you're going to instantly see nervousness checking in. You're instantly going to see people not wanting to play the ball back to you. That didn't happen in the match. Immediately after he does that, he puts his hands up, he owns it, and things restart as normal because he's earned that trust, because he's very good at talking with his defenders. His positioning is what allows him to thrive in a lot of the saves he's making. He holds that high line that you need when teams are trying to exploit you over the back. That's why he's able to make these one-on-one saves consistently, because he's in the right position. He's very patient. There's a lot of goalkeepers that will commit the minute that the ball goes over the top. They'll think they win it. He's had one error where he gave up the penalty because he was a little quick to try and make the challenge instead of stand him up. But a lot of the time it's his footwork and his ability to stand up and be patient instead of committing, instead of going to ground. Because when you go to a ground as a goalkeeper, you leave the whole goal open. He is more to stand up. That's why a lot of the times when he does these one-on-ones, I look back to Brandon Vazquez, who was one-on-one with him. Vazquez hits it straight at Kalina. A lot of people will say, bad shot from Vazquez. I urge them to flip the mentality and see, what did Kalina do to give Vazquez no other option but to try and power it through him. I think it's all about positioning. So I've been impressed. But what's going to be really interesting is, again, seeing how he responds in a new match, a fresh 90 minutes after making an error, because we talk about goldfish memory and moving on. It's so important that he doesn't dwell on that and it doesn't affect him, that he learns. And again, like I said, I think that trust, though, that he's built is pivotal.
So we got about 7.5 months or so of trash talk to get ready for, because maybe close to 8 by the time they actually get on the field. It was preordained that the U.S. and England would end up in the same group. We knew this was going to happen. We called it the day before. We told everybody to buckle up. I've said that I think it is a good group for both, and I think both should expect to go through. But that second game of the group, there is going to be so much talk on both sides of the Atlantic. Good grief.
Yeah, and it had to be just on Black Friday, right? I think it's perfect timing after our Thanksgiving dinner, after I celebrate the most American holiday possible. I will then turn to be as British as possible. My accent will probably change that week. I will be embracing everything English. I will only be eating sausage rolls for the entirety of that week. It
I
may
was
be
going to
bad
ask
for
you
my
about mushy
diet.
peas.
There you go.
Are you breaking out the mushy peas?
Mushy.
It's mushy.
I would say mushy indeed. And I'm not a fan, which is
Good.
probably
Okay, good.
blasphemy, but
No,
just
that's
it's
a
a
good thing.
texture. It's a texture thing, an appearance thing. But I think it's going to be a fantastic match. And these are the things you live for as a soccer fan, right? I think it's very exciting to get to play against teams that have so much built-in banter, built-in rivalry. You can't say that this isn't a rivalry because it was a whole monarchy that created a rivalry out of this.
Kind of a rivalry there when you break away from a country. Yes.
Yeah.
just a little bit written in the stars. But I think it'll be an exciting match, like I say, Jason, and I'm ready for it. But I will say, as I've said on multiple platforms, that it does shock me how many people thought I would be torn about who I would support.
That makes
I
no
guess
sense
they
to me.
didn't see me against the English when England and the US faced each other in the Women's World Cup. I guess they didn't witness the heartbreak and the turmoil in our post-game show in that one, Jason.
You were ready to fight everybody that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I did a good job. To be fair, the fact that I came on and still spoke and stood my ground and had a conversation, and that's the most important thing. I think whatever the result is, it can still work out for both of us to progress, which is what the main aim of the game is, right?
Yeah, it's a little different than 2010, where that was the first game, and you had 2 games after that where things could change, and it was a draw. This one, depending on how the tournament starts, and England will start with Iran, which will not be an easy opponent. Iran is a very underrated team. I think we have a weird sense coming into this World Cup because you haven't had all those like different kinds of matchups that we'll normally get in friendlies over the years.
Yeah,
leading up.
It's been very localized.
Yeah,
To the
so
past.
we haven't really seen much of Iran against teams outside of the Asian qualifying. So how do they handle playing other kinds of teams? Well, we're going to find out. The U.S. will start with one of Scotland or Ukraine or Wales, which is tricky, but you get that game second, and then you've got to bounce back quick. And look, I mean, it could be England, Scotland in the last day, and it could be U.S. and Iran. You talk about loaded games with all kinds of storylines off the field for both teams.
God.
Poof.
I think this is almost the most exciting. Obviously, it's the most exciting group for us, right? But there is a lot of excitement in terms of those rivalries built in, like you say. And I'm interested to see who makes it out of that qualifier as well, whether it's Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine, if Ukraine are able to continue in their bid. But I would take Scotland. I told you guys that. I think that battle between Scotland and England is more loaded than than an England and Wales battle.
Jared, are you ready for that?
Oh yeah. Well, for one thing, I think the Scots are more angry about this than anybody. Like they're ready to go again, especially after they got a draw in the Euros. You can't really tell them anything right now.
No, you can't.
But they got to get through Ukraine first. I don't know if they get through Ukraine, and then you have to survive Gareth Bale for 90 minutes. Basically, the same thing he did in his first game with qualifier. Of hey, Gareth Bale might do 2 crazy things, and all of a sudden you're down 2-0. Congratulations, have a good day.
And that's why I don't want Wales, because they have a player with the ability to damage you in a moment of craziness. He can just pull it out of nowhere, and he's scary. He could ruin your whole World Cup by one moment of magic.
Yeah, those kinds of attacking players and those goalkeepers that can ruin your day. I think those are the teams I'm always looking at in a World Cup.
Navas has entered the chat. God forbid Costa Rica ever have an actual attack.
Mm-hmm. Keylor Navas, he's one of those guys.
Yep. So, Jess, when you look at the other groups really quickly, I mean, you look at Group C, since we're in Group B, let's go next door, and look at Group C, where you've got Messi, Lewandowski, and Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, it's written in the stars. There's going to be some fantastic matches. I'm super excited about the World Cup. Let's be honest, there's no time like World Cup when all we can do is binge watch soccer, and I'll be making sure I watch every match possible.
5 o'clock in the morning is when it starts here.
Hey, it's okay. My job is talking about soccer now, so, I don't have to wake up and do real work. It's a blessing.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of things to be talking about when that gets started. Right after the MLS season, I mean, it's 2 weeks after MLS Cup and we go straight into a World Cup for a month that leads us right up to Christmas and holiday season. And this is going to be a weird year, Jess.
Yeah, and I was going to say, do you think it's favorable for Europe in terms of the fact that, Premier League is going to be mid-season, or do you think it's favorable for MLS that they'll have just finished? I was talking to my dad about that. Do you think there's any difference? Do you think it favors anybody?
I think it depends on the player and the team that they're at. There's potentially enough of a break in MLS if you don't go to MLS Cup. I mean, even if you're one of those two teams, you're going 2 weeks before your first game. If you get knocked out earlier in the playoffs or you don't make the playoffs, then you've got plenty of time and it's like a normal World Cup. I think it's tough for the European teams because, I mean, we always talk about this in a summer World Cup, like guys coming off a long season and how hard it is, but at least they get 3 to 4 weeks to kind of recover and rest and then go into it and play. Here, you got a week and you're going in. You're in mid-season, but you play on the weekend. Like English players for that first game, they're going to play potentially as late as Sunday in England in the Premier League, and then be playing on Monday in Qatar in a World Cup. And the following Monday, 8 days later. It's like that's
and travel
is a day.
Acclimatizing, getting used to being in a completely different. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I thought I would turn into the interviewer today just for that one. Thank you.
Oh, good. We'll have plenty of trash talk between now and the start of the World Cup. Don't you worry. We will probably have a little bit of trash talk on Sunday, where I'll see you at Bank of America Stadium. Are you hanging around afterwards, or are you heading straight back after the game on Sunday?
We'll see. We'll see how the result goes, whether I want to face you or not.
So then I can probably count on not seeing you after the game. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh. Hey, we'll let the soccer do the talking.
Yeah, until like Monday, or probably until like a couple hours after the game where we're talking trash on text like we usually do.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to it. And it was a pleasure to be back on Soccer Down Here.
Awesome. Anytime. You got the golden ticket, and I'll see you on Sunday.
Take care, guys.
Be good, Jess.
Jarrett, final thoughts before you leave us for hour number 2?
I'm going to be, actually there's a game starting like literally right now, so I'll probably be in the Discord on the watch along.
No, it's starting at 11, Jarrett.
I'm starting at 10.
They pushed it back again.
We covered this in the first segment of the show.
Central, sir.
It's 10 God's time. Okay. Hey, Central Time Zone is God's time zone. I don't know what you want. You're welcome. I'll probably then fine at 11 o'clock. I'll be in the Discord, probably doing the watch along with Tormenta in Charleston, and somewhere far away is Chris Ashley, both getting ready for Greenville Triumph and also experiencing any sort of schadenfreude he can drag out of a Tormenta game if it goes the wrong way for Tormenta.
Yeah, no, there will be trash talk, and then they get Oakland tonight. So, yeah, I mean, you got tons of Cup stories the rest of the day, and it starts here in about an hour, and you can yell at Jarrett in the watch-along section of our Discord. Have fun with that, and we'll see you tomorrow, Jarrett.
Sounds good. Take care.
Be good.
Yeah, thanks.
John, why don't you tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize?
I can certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder for those of us watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service. They deodorize enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, creating a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their facilities that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that these days. Very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than your favorite masking agent that you have under the sink, because that masking agent, all it does is mask. Masks the odor. It doesn't attack the problem. Like Eliminize does, going all the way down to the molecule with their proven scientific formula. Price is very, very easy for you. Either one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Get results in 24 hours or less with the Eliminize service. Reach out to them on their website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are reaching out to them from. So the full request, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Eliminize.com /Atlanta to reach out to Eliminize Service. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Well done. Good stuff. All right.
That was very Peter Frampton-ish this morning with the choice of music. It was very, very guitar solo-y.
You guys have the worst memories and short-term memories. I thought I was the one with concussion issues. It was the exact same music as yesterday, John.
Was it?
Yes.
I thought it was different yesterday because you
No. I'm playing it. I know it's the same file.
Okay. I thought it was different yesterday and 2 days ago.
Yes, it was different than 2 days ago. It was the same as yesterday because I played the same file as yesterday because I'm staring at it.
Okay. I thought it was different yesterday.
You keep saying that.
Yeah. And I will continue to emphasize that I thought it was different yesterday because my vocal intonations were different.
And now we're going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Injury news yesterday with Atlanta United seems to be a recurring theme. Now it's an Achilles for Dylan Castanera. He is out. Third string goalkeeper. He's played twice with Atlanta United 2 this season. I would assume that Justin Garces, who's on an MLS deal, would become that third string goalkeeper for the first team. It probably doesn't change very much. We haven't seen Castanera on the bench in an MLS match this season. He was expected to play a decent bit for Atlanta United 2 and stay fresh as that potential number 3 if you have an issue with Brad Kazan or Bobby Shuttleworth. You haven't yet. Now Garces will move up a rung in the ladder this year, and he's got some catching up to do. You know, he's out of college. He's got a couple of pro games under his belt, but he's under an MLS deal. I don't think you go look for another third goalkeeper. It would seem to be unnecessary. You have Vicente Reyes, who you could sign as a homegrown if you so choose. I think he will down the road. You accelerate that if he is for some reason needed in MLS matches and you've used up your temporary call-ups, which you can do this year. You can call somebody up 4 times to be on the bench. They can only play in 2 games as a USL contracted player. You got a lot of leeway here. Garces is on an MLS deal, who's been loaned to the 2s. You can bring him back to the first team. Reyes is on an Atlanta United 2 deal, so you've got those 4 bench spots and 2 games he can play. And once you max that out, you could sign him to a homegrown deal if you need to. So I don't think it really changes anything except for people's narratives. And now an Achilles injury is something that a training staff should be being able to prevent. And I think really the only way you can do that is by not training. So there's not much you can do for an Achilles. I don't know what else to tell you, but if you want to run with a narrative, have at it, have fun. These things happen. We've seen them happen in all sports. I remember watching Dominique Wilkins tear his Achilles at the old Omni, and I think he just took a step.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't even anything weird in it. He just took a step. We've seen guys get rolled up occasionally, and it's caused an Achilles. Be really careful with speculation on this kind of stuff. I saw some of that on the Twitch pitch earlier about, well, maybe this happened. Maybe nobody knows. You can literally blow your Achilles on a not even misstep, on just a step if it's that time. It's awful luck. You know, it's another season-ending injury. I was actually underselling the amount of season-ending injuries that are not training staff related yesterday, when you had this year Alonso and Castanera, last year Hindman, 2020 Joseph, 2019 Breck. Don't think you had any in 18 that were season ending or in 17. It's just awful luck. It's just awful luck. You deal with it. In this case, like I said, it's the third string goalkeeper who hasn't been on the bench in the first team yet this season. Justin Garces becomes that player. He goes up from 4 to 3, and Reyes becomes 4 if needed in situations where I don't think he will. And another thing to keep in mind with those games he can play and bench appearances he can make, because I know we get hung up on details sometimes, he can play an Open Cup, and that does not affect that. The 4 and 2, 4 times on the bench and 2 appearances, that is purely an MLS play. So Reyes can play in friendlies, he can play in Open Cup, he could play in CONCACAF Champions League. That would not count to the 4-2. That's where things are with that. It's awful luck for Dylan. Felt like Dylan needed games to get back to where he was in 2019. I don't think his time in Miami helped him at all. He didn't play much, even with their second team. I don't think they've really managed the development process well for everybody involved. Castanera, a little rusty. Thought that showed at times with the twos. But seeing him in 2019, he's an excellent shot stopper, and he's good with the ball at his feet. And he's an Atlanta United kind of goalkeeper, and he needed time to get back to that. And he's not going to get that now. Now he has to get healthy and see what he can do next year, how long it's going to take him to come back from an Achilles, which is all over the place in terms of recovery times and what it's like once you come back. So we'll just have to wait and see for Dylan Castanera. But Justin Garces moves up on that depth chart right now, and we see what's next for Atlanta United.
Yeah, you mentioned Dominique Wilkins, Turner Kirby on the Twitch pitch. You mentioned Mike Soroka for the Braves, literally walking to the clubhouse and re-rupturing his. So it is, you could be taking a step and something like this happens, but you absolutely feel for Dylan Castanera, who came back to Atlanta United looking for an opportunity. And now the thing that he has to focus on now is just getting back into top shape and being ready the next time out, however many months down the line that is. So just focus on your health. But obviously just gutting for Dylan Castanera what happened yesterday.
Yeah, I hate it for Dylan. I hate that he's got to go through this. Hopefully it is not a difficult recovery and he's back and able to compete as early as preseason next year. We'll just have to wait and see. Other stuff on the MLS front before we get into some questions before Nico joins us. We've had a few bits of news and conversation. Alan Velasco article in The Striker, Texas, which is a great outlet to follow. I subscribe to them. They cover all the teams in Texas and do great work in doing it, great in-depth work. Article about Alan Velasco being fouled a lot. And I did chuckle a little bit because it feels like a conversation we've had on this show quite a bit. Alan Velasco was asked about it after the last match in Chicago. He said, in Argentina, it happened where I'd get fouled as well. I don't know how many I received in this game, but I think it was more than 5 or 6. It's something I'm already used to. What I don't like is that sometimes there aren't many yellow cards from the referees, but it's nothing other than the pain of the game. Right now, it was nothing more than that. He went on to say, the game here is very physical. People had told me that, and sometimes refs don't call the small contact that in Argentina would be called as clear fouls. I think there were 2 the other day where the referee didn't call it. It's about getting used to the league, how they play here, and the referees. But hopefully Saturday we get a referee who has a good game as well. I don't remember Ezequiel Barco ever getting those kinds of questions after games. It felt like it was the other way around. And it's a shame. Marcelino Moreno, same thing. The game, and we have this conversation about referees, the game gets called differently in different parts of the world. I really like that Alan specifies some of the small contact that gets called as fouls in Argentina that don't hear and how that can lead to bigger things. It is something you have to adjust to. And if you went to England, it'd be, kind of a similar thing. If you went to Germany, you have to adjust to how the game's called there. Same in Spain, same in Italy, same everywhere. But here it is something that I'm glad Alan spoke to this because it's something that I want to see more pressure on MLS about not having these talented, expensive, young, exciting players come into this league and get kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked again. It is not a good thing for the league. What do you see outside of Mejores Patadas, of course, because that's a hilarious Twitter account? What do you see generally on your timeline? What do you see kids watching about the game that they love? Highlights, attacking things, great moments, great dribbles, great goals, great passes. Maybe more of the latter. I'd love to see it. But anyway, you don't see great fouls. Again, outside of Mejores Patadas, because that's just a funny website. You've got to celebrate the good things about it. When you get these guys kicked all the time, it's not good. So I'm really glad that Striker Texas had this conversation with Alan Velasco, and I'm glad that he spoke to it very clearly, not whining, not complaining, saying he needs to adjust to it, but making the point about, hey, in Argentina, look, it's a physical league there too. where Patatas is based. It's a very physical league. But the way fouls are called differs. And when you allow lots of small contact to go, the line shifts. And then you see more and more and more. And when you don't see the yellow cards come, look, then that gets you at least another whack at a player. And it's just too much. Good interview with Striker Texas. Really, really good to see Alan Velasco speak on this. Because he's going to be one of these guys, like Moreno is, like Barco was, like Almada will be, who is just fouled and fouled and fouled and fouled again.
And what I am looking for, and I don't know if we're ever going to see it with the consistency that we would like, is for these artists, and that's the term that I'll use, because when you see a Velasco, when you see a Barco, when you see a Moreno, I've always viewed them as artists that have a soccer ball at their feet, because you can see their imagination, you can sense their imagination, their love for the sport and what they want to do and trying to make their team succeed. What I would like to see more of is a consistency from the refereeing in Major League Soccer to sit there and it's like, for these artists that are getting chopped down, I want to see cards. I want to see the fouls called. I want to see cards sooner than they are given, or the fact that they're never given. I'd like some persistent infringement actually to be called, especially with these players that have been brought into this league for this particular reason. And it's a frustrating thing for me, because we see these players continue to get hacked. And that's the term that I'll use, because to me, there's fouling, there's hacking, and then there's just absolutely, blowing somebody up. I would like to see, and I'd like to be less frustrated, frankly, with officiating in Major League Soccer when it comes to these players and their abilities being shown. And it just seems to me at times that, yeah, okay, whatever. And that shouldn't be a response when you're an official. It's just like, yeah, okay, you got fouled. And then you get fouled again, and then you get fouled a third time. And it's a point of contention for me when it comes to officiating, especially where these artists are concerned.
Yeah, it's something that's got to change. I hope the refereeing mentality at some point in this country starts to match the player base and the way the game is being played in this country, because you can like it or not, you can have your issues with it if you want, but you go watch a youth game, you go watch high-level high school games, you go watch high-level college games, you go watch high-level anything. Game's very Latin in this country now. Very Latin in style of play, very Latin in how things go on the field, and the refereeing is not. And it's not about who is the referee and where they're from. It is about the way that they referee the game. And that's something that I would like to see evolve, because I think the coaching is starting to catch up, the refereeing is not. And you get a little bit of a disconnect. So we will see where that continues to go. But a great piece at the Striker Texas on Alan Velasco. Brenner from Cincinnati, Laurel Faller, who is another great follow and has a Patreon with incredible coverage of FC Cincinnati. Laurel Faller broke the news yesterday that Brenner asked for a move away from Cincinnati. The club has declined an offer, according to Tom Bogert from Brazilian side Internacional. Cincinnati still believes in Brenner. The offer didn't meet their valuation. Bogert confirmed Faller's scoop that Brenner has asked for a move. I can't see this going well if the player has asked for a move, an offer came in, and the club turned it down. That usually isn't a good timeline for things working out.
No, and you wonder what the self-evaluation that FC Cincinnati has for Brenner in this case. Are they just trying to recoup? Do they think that there's something on the plus side from the money that they've invested?
No, there's no plus side. Have you seen him in this league?
I mean, in the sense of financial plus side,
That's what I'm saying. John, how are you going to ask for an increase?
Yeah, he just has not been very good.
He hasn't. So, you're trying to recoup if you can. Like, there's no way. If Cincinnati went to Internacional and said, yeah, how much did they pay? I want to say, did it get to 8 figures on Brenner?
I think it was 10. That's the number.
I think it was right around 9 to 10. So let's say 10. If Cincinnati went to Internacional and said, yeah, we want 15, the laughing could not be louder from Internacional. Like, they're going to come in and say, we'll give you 5.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to find a number somewhere in between. Cincinnati's got to recoup as much as they can and probably cut bait. And you're, I believe, possibly out of time in dealing with this with Brazil, because their window is either closed or closing at the end of the week. We'll double check that. I know it's April. Their Serie A, the Brasileiro, starts. The National League starts this weekend. Their state leagues have all wrapped up. So I'm pulling it up now. Brazil.
2021 it was.
The 12th. Yeah. They close the 12th. So you've got a few more days. I don't see Brenner with FC Cincinnati when they come to Atlanta on the 16th. I think they make a move to at least send him back to Brazil on a loan with an option to buy. I just cannot see how the player wants a move, how the club's going to be able to keep him when it hasn't worked out for either side. I think he's going to be back in Brazil.
And Pat Brennan has the initial transfer in the region of $13 million back in 2021.
It's going to be tough to get much of that back. You're going to try to get as much as you can, but you're not going to be able to get a lot just because he hasn't played much and he hasn't done much. So that's going to be a tricky one. We'll see if Cincinnati can figure it out, but I just don't see how they keep him. I think you have to get what you can and move on. That's really where it seems to be. We talked about Champions League off the jump, but Karim Benzema was ridiculous yesterday. Kai Havertz had a header that gave them a chance, but then Edward Mendy caught beginning of the second half in possession. Just awful from him. He's really struggled for a while now. And Chelsea probably going out at this stage. You can't really hold too much against them, John, because of everything they're dealing with off the field. It's got to be a distraction. They're going to be in Champions League next year. They're going to have new ownership by the time you get to that point. But, yeah, I think all of this has kind of wrecked their focus at the end of this season.
And I give Thomas Tuchel a boatload of credit, him and the staff and the players, frankly, for being locked in and focusing on what's going on in front of them, instead of knowing that, when you wake up in the morning, your phone's blowing up, your DMs, I'm sure, are blowing up. You're looking at the web, you're seeing the papers and all the glossy headlines about everything that's going on. It can't just be something that is ignored. And I give everyone that is roster, game day, all of them, a boatload of credit for being able to just focus. But yeah, yesterday, how many consecutive years have people tried to write off either Karim Benzema, anyone on Real Madrid, or Real Madrid specifically when it comes to late competitions? Oh, they're getting old. I don't know if they can make it. And then they just keep doing what they've been doing. And so I give credit both ways for Chelsea to focus to this point. But yesterday they ran into Karim Benzema, and he's just been insane the last year.
A couple more before we grab a question or two on the Twitch pitch before Niko Moreno joins us at 10:30, and we'll be out right at 11 o'clock today. How excited are you about that Burnley-Everton game yesterday? I know it was a relegation 6-pointer, and you had to be thrilled.
Frankly, I was watching Real Madrid and Chelsea.
What?
Yeah, I watched.
Are they going to revoke your membership in the England club?
Probably after.
Okay, just checking.
Legitimately, yesterday I was watching the 2 Champions League matches, and then literally when Cornet scored, I was like, "Oh yeah!" No lie. When
I do not believe this.
Seriously, when Cornet scored and NBC Sports Soccer posted the goal and the goal call on the Bird app, that was like, "Oh, that's right." Because I was so locked into what Karim Benzema was doing, it finally hit me, oh, yeah, that's going on. And then you go back and you figure out what was going on. But no, I literally, until the end in the deciding goal, and actually, frankly, I think the match was over when they posted the goal. So, no, I didn't sit there and look up what was going on with Burnley and Everton.
Oh, my days. Ha, ha, ha.
I don't believe you.
Fine. Is my nose growing, sir?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
It is. So Burnley's 1 point behind Everton now. They've jumped to 18th. Everton on 25, Burnley on 24. Everton's got to be feeling the pressure. And with their financial situation, if they get relegated, they got to immediately hit the trampoline and come back, or they could be in big trouble if they lose out those parachute payments and stay in the championship for any period of time.
Yep.
They feel like one that could tumble further with the amount of debt that they've got and the amount of issues they've got financially. Just have to see where that goes. It's not all on Frank Lampard. He walked into a situation that was bad to begin with. He hasn't been able to turn it. We'll see if he can. Got a 1 point cushion right now. Last one before we get to questions. Or last two. I got two for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brighton. Brighton has handed down an indefinite ban to a football supporter who was convicted of shouting homophobic abuse during a Premier League game at the Amex Stadium. Luke Reese, 21 years old, overheard directing abuse at nearby Brighton fans, his own fans. A member of club staff heard it. Reese tried to leave the ground after realizing that he had been spotted. He was stopped by staff and police before being arrested. Following a trial at Brighton Magistrates Court, Reese was on Tuesday convicted of indecent chanting at a designated football match and will serve a football banning order for 3 years. He was also fined and ordered to pay costs. Brighton, the club, worked with the Sussex police on it. Brighton said, "We have a zero-tolerance approach on all forms of antisocial behavior, and this includes any form of abuse. We work closely with Sussex police to identify and prosecute the individual concerned, and we welcome the guilty verdict from the courts. The individual will also be subject to an indefinite ban from the Amex." Luke Reese, 21 years old, not going to games at Brighton anymore because of being an idiot. Good job, Brighton. Good job, local police. Good job. I could use the segue of being an idiot, but I'm not, because that'd be mean, because it would be talking about PSG. Unai Emery was asked about the presence of 3 ex-PSG coaches in the Champions League quarterfinals. L'Equipe has the quote. They said, "That means they are very good coaches. If they have not succeeded with PSG, it is because there is something else. I told Nasser, you will win the Champions League. Someone must break the ceiling." That's some good shade from Unai Emery.
Very good shade.
You know, like, hey, you've had these guys, and they haven't done it with you. And you know what? Maybe it's something else. Maybe you need to look in the mirror. We'll see if PSG ever does. I doubt it. What do we got on the Twitch pitch before we get to Nico?
Well, in our discussion with what happened in the Prem yesterday, obviously we have not done a very good job in talking both Ropes and the Airborne DJ off the Everton ledge.
I can't talk you off the ledge. You lost to Burnley. I can't talk you off that ledge. I'm sorry. You're going to have to get used to the ledge for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, when Sean Dyche admitted post-match that he told the players at halftime that those guys don't know how to win and that we can come back and win this match.
Well, that's what you say. I mean, come on, John. Let's not give Sean Dyche too much credit for being a genius here.
Yeah, I mean, but still, when you're Burnley and you're saying, that's what I was getting at. It was when you're Burnley.
No. But you could say that if you're Joe Schmo FC, because that's how you rally your team. Like that is, I've used that in youth games because you see something about the other team. You see your team needs a little bit of a boost. Doesn't mean he actually believed it. Remember coach speak. You know how that goes.
Yes, I do.
But you don't always tell your team the truth. Sometimes you tell your team things to motivate them. Absolutely. And that's an easy motivational thing. Is it true in this case? It could be. I mean, Everton wasn't a team built to be in this situation. And when the point that Dyche made, I think about he's been there, he knows how it goes. Well, yeah, because that's really the kind of level you're at, and that's kind of the team you're at. When you're not a team who is built to scrap, it's tougher to adjust to that. Can Everton do that? I don't know. I don't know. I can't talk anybody off a ledge because you get Manchester United come into town. That's next. You host Leicester, you go to Liverpool, you host Chelsea, you go to Leicester, you go to Watford, you host Brentford, you host Palace, you go to Arsenal on the last day. That is a brutal run-in.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
Mm-mm.
Can they do it? Well, they have the quality. They should. But they're in a different kind of fight than that team was built for, and they've got to adjust. Burnley's run in. They go to Norwich. They go to West Ham. They host Southampton. They host Wolves. They go to Watford. They host Villa. They go to Tottenham. They go to Villa, and they host Newcastle on the last day.
It's more manageable.
It's a much more manageable run in, and all they need is to have a 2-point swing. The games are there for Burnley.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be easy for Everton. They've got to get into that mentality that, look, I hate, I get it at this point of the year. Let's be real. This is a relegation fight. This is not what Everton's team was built around.
Yeah.
When you're built around playing this way, or if you're a Big Sam, for example, and you walk into a team and your job is to keep them up, you're looking at point by point. We had this conversation last year, and I was trying to stress to you. I remember, like, for some of these teams in the spot, it's not about 3 points. It's about a point. It's about 1 point here, 1 point there.
Mm-hmm.
Everton's not built to play that way. Burnley is. Burnley gets a point in any of those games. Doesn't matter who it is. They're like, yeah, that's cool. That's what we do. Yep. Everton, and we talked about it yesterday, like they win or they lose. And they've lost a lot more than they've won. They don't draw. They're not finding that point here and there and settling and protecting that point when they get it. That's an adjustment for Frank Lampard. He's never been in that spot. When you have a result that is favorable and it might be all you can get in that game, it's one of the toughest things for a manager to say, you know what, this is what we got today. We got to protect it at all costs and not go for more when it's just not there. He's going to have to do that the rest of the way. We'll see if he does. We'll see if he can, and we'll see if he can get some results, because Burnley's got the better schedule coming in. They got a schedule that they can turn that 1 point cushion around on Everton. Absolutely.
And there is such a thing, especially in a relegation scrap, as a good point.
Well, yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, of course there's a good thing about getting a good point. There's a good thing about any point's good. Yeah. It's not about a bad point in a relegation scrap outside of throwing away something and just completely throwing it away.
Yeah.
Like, a point's a point. Every point is good in a relegation scrap. Everton's not built to get points. They're built to get wins.
Yep.
And that's not going to be easy. So we'll see if they can get it. One more before we get to Nico.
Since we were discussing what's happening at the top of the hour with the U.S. Open Cup, since the draw is tomorrow, Ropes wanted to know where to watch.
YouTube, and I think the U.S. Soccer Twitter social media accounts. I know the YouTube will have it. Probably at Open Cup on Twitter will have it, but it's supposed to be at noon tomorrow. Last one, Airborne DJ. I disagree. He says, no, we don't have the quality. That's why we are where we are. No, I thoroughly disagree. You have more quality than Burnley and Norwich and the teams around you. I'm not saying you have the quality to win the Premier League. Nobody's saying that. You have more quality than the teams around you. You cannot argue to me that Everton is not a more talented team than Norwich, Watford, Burnley, Leeds, Newcastle, Brentford, maybe Brighton, Southampton. They're more talented. They are underperforming.
Mm-hmm.
It is not that they are performing as they should be. They are underperforming. And that's why you are where you are. It's not about the talent necessarily. Are you good enough to be in the top 10? No, you're not. Thought you should have been, but nope, not going to be there. But you should be ahead of where you are. That's underperforming.
Yes.
That's different. So that's my opinion anyway. I don't think the team was built that badly. I don't think they were built to get into Europe, but I definitely don't think they were built to be 17th. So anyway, that's just my opinion. I'm not the expert when it comes to England, but we do have an expert when it comes to Seattle and everything going on out there. And there was a classic in the CONCACAF Champions League last night, a great first leg, and it was a good night for the Sounders. Let's get our weekly guest right now. Niko Moreno, after a late night at Lumen Field. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, you guys. Good morning, audience. My two favorite Thursday guys. What's going on? It is a beautiful morning here in Seattle. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. I mean, the coffee's tasting amazing. I think everybody in Seattle that was at that stadium, the 31,000 and plus, are just waking up to a very good morning today. Wonderful performance, great game overall, beautiful night for soccer. So I'm just excited to be here with you guys, sharing it.
You sound like Brian Schmetzer from last night. When Brian is excited about a game and smiling and says, that was an entertaining soccer game, I hope our fans enjoyed that. I did. I'm kind of thrown off, but it was that kind of a game. It was really entertaining.
It was very good. I think that whenever a coach plans something and it gets executed correctly, you're just happy, right? You're excited that every single thing that you worked on all week just came out. It resulted the way you wanted it. And not just that, but, individual performances were so good. Someone like Albert Rusnak getting a goal in that specific moment, I think really uplifted the group. The team wanted him to have that moment. The fact that it happened for him and it kind of dictated the tempo of the entire game in a beautiful set quality play, where there's a switch of the point of attack. There's a quick combination between Alex and Christian, and then Alex makes a great run. Christian finds Jordan inside the box, and then Jordan settles it, places it for Albert Rusnak, and Rusnak just puts it away. So it was just a wonderful night overall. Good goals, good soccer. With the exception of maybe giving up the one goal, it was almost a perfect performance by the Seattle Sounders last night.
Well, and at the same time, Nico, the fact that meaning Seattle, that Seattle jumped on NYCFC from the absolute beginning, and they wanted to put their foot down and be the assertive team at home, and getting those 2 goals on the board early. I know that a lot of folks were sitting there thinking, okay, this is locked up, but you got off to that quick start. NYCFC comes in with to make it 2-1 before you get the third. But I think that the hot start, I think, was key in getting that push that you wanted to try to have NYCFC having to work from their heels there in the match.
The hot start was important. Brian could say what he wants, and he honestly is the guy that will kind of simmer everything down. He will, downplay things. But I have never seen in 2022 Sounders pressure as high as they did. And he was asked about it, and like always, he's like, no, we always pressure high. No, Brian, not like last night. He really made a difference. You could see what he wanted to do. He made New York uncomfortable from the very beginning. That was a team that really struggled to get out of their own end at the beginning of the game. So yeah, I mean, a huge credit to the team in general in the way they pressured. They really took away the angles for New York to get out with confidence. They really made them push the ball high and just try to get over that first line of pressure. So it was just a well-rounded game. And someone else who helped with that tempo, John? Jordan Morris. Yeah. Jordan Morris, new haircut, new player. I mean, we finally see what we know he's capable of. Jordan Morris last night was a threat all game long. He was defiant. He was finding that end line. He was goal dangerous. He was getting behind the defenders back over and over again. I mean, he didn't score more goals because he just couldn't. He just wasn't gonna do it. But the goal, the assist, I mean, it was a great night for Jordan. He is always a player that wants to play well. It gives you a lot of effort, but he's not always as dangerous as he was last night. Best performance of him in 2022, and it's good to see him play in this manner because he has the quality, he has the talent, the physical abilities. Now the confidence comes through, and that's when this player shines.
I think part of it, too, is you get that front six all firing with Nico Ladero in the group, with Joao Paulo, who's been outstanding so far this season, with Morris, with Christian Roldan, with Rui Diaz, and with Albert Rusnak playing a big role. What'd you think of Rusnak in this one?
I thought he was great. I mean, he has been good He's a player that is rarely in the wrong position. He knows how to follow plays. Yesterday, in that first goal, he's tracking the play the entire time, and he's making all the right moves. Yesterday, he was good in possession, good in distribution, helping out in this new role of a defensive midfielder or a box-to-box of that first line of midfielders coming in right next to Joe Paulo. And he's just helpful. He gives Joe Paulo another guy that's going to distribute from the back end and allows Nico to have a lot more freedom in the attacking end. He doesn't have to track as far and gives them another player that can really set quick transitions because he's a very smart player. You talk about the player who makes the pass before the pass to a goal. He's always there when it comes to that. He starts the quick breaks. He is that guy. I thought last night he was very good defensively as well. We've heard a lot of players come out and say, look, Rusnak is not only good on offense, but it's what he does defensively. And yesterday, I thought he did great, coming back, making sure that shape was intact whenever New York wanted to get forward. I mean, they denied Castellanos services all game long. He was not a threat for Seattle at all. Now, there were some half chances that were created from early crosses. Javier Arriaga did not have his best game. Couple of miscommunications in the goal. Couple of miscommunications in those early crosses. And lucky was Seattle that New York didn't capitalize on those moments. But Rusnak does help that situation. Rusnak and Joe Paulo creating an even bigger rapport between each other, more chemistry. It's going to be great to see it because before you were thinking, where does Rusnak really fit? Do you really want to put him out wide or not? Christian is that guy that would typically go next to Joe Paulo, but this is working. And if it's working, you don't fix it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about it, Nico, is, we think of Seattle in the 4-2-3-1. We think kind of rigidly, like, okay, it's a double pivot, it's two holding, and then it's a line of three and it's one up top. When you get Joao Paulo and Ladero and Rusnak, who Joao Paulo as the six, we know he's elite. He's maybe the best in the league. But when you get two guys who are talented going forward, like Rusnak and like Ladero, who are also selfless for the team and they'll play in deeper roles, it really becomes a 4-3-3 with Joao Paulo in the middle, Rusnak to the left, Ladero to the right. They can adjust. They can play off of one another. One can step, the others can sit. And it's really fluid. It's really difficult for opponents to deal with. If those three continue to develop chemistry, there's not going to be many midfields that can play with them.
I agree. And that movement is so important. Yesterday, there was an opportunity where Raul Ruiz ends up out wide on the left, and Jordan Morris is in that 9 area, and there's a cross to Christian Roldan, which he can't really bring down. But all of that movement, it's not a coincidence. This is the way this team plays. In transition, they are elite in the way they move and understand each other. They're a better team. Raul Ruiz is not even 100%. Neither is Nico. And yet you saw all those components kind of come together. You got a little preview in Minnesota. Now it gets even better against New York City. Let's see what they can do with a couple of weeks of playing together, settle it in, getting more game rhythm in terms of those two players, Nico and Raul Ruiz. But it's exciting, man. It's just they know exactly how to move, how to be dangerous constantly. I mean, they're a handful. They can definitely be a handful.
So let me go to the back line again for my next question. And then we've seen it in the regular season with Vargas, someone who, doesn't have a whole lot of years on the driver's license, but Brian Schmetzer just as confident putting him in the lineup when it comes to MLS. We got to see Jackson Reagan last night getting reps in a CONCACAF Champions League semifinal. When you look at the development of the younger players at the back, what's been your takeaways from the early part of the season, once again, where all of the youth just comes to fit, and it's from absolute beginnings that it doesn't seem to miss a step at all?
My conclusion and my take is that Seattle knows what they're doing. You have to appreciate the fact that when you were looking at the center back position, early in the season, you were looking at guys like AB Sissoko and guys like Reagan, and you were like, well, is that really the depth of the team? And you saw that the organization had no worries. Now you see why. Reagan has been fantastic. He has even taken the role away from Javier Arriaga to be the first one with the ball off the back end because he has such a quality foot. He finds players with ease. He is a very good passer. He's composed on the ball. And now you also have another physical player at 6'6", that without Yeimar is so important, but I can only imagine how him and Yeimar can work together in certain positions, right? So it's just exciting to see how much development there has been. Jackson Reagan was at the USL level. This is his first MLS experience, and he's caught on so quickly. Whenever we talked to him, he expressed credit to Wade and Tacoma Defiance, the coaching staff, how much they work on him in possession with the ball, in how to cover, how to position his body, his hips. Absolutely everything that this team does is a result that you see on the field. Maybe Sissoko is also a very good player, but at the moment, Jackson has just overpassed them. And that's another thing about the Seattle Sounders that I think talks about what you just said. If a player is playing well, if a player is training and shining above another one, it doesn't matter if he just got to the team, doesn't matter how much experience you have or how much he's paid, he's going to play. Age don't matter, salary don't matter, and you've seen that out of this team over and over again. Obed Vargas didn't start, but when with a game of this magnitude, Brian Smetzer had no worries to bring in Obed when he did. You pull out Nico, you push up a line with Rusnak, and the shape stays intact. The chemistry is still there. It's just great to see.
Yeah, it's been really impressive this year, and Seattle's not the only ones who are doing it. I feel like you're seeing new players come into the league, and generally we talk about a Shaqiri and international guys who come into the league and do something. Velasco down in Dallas, Almada here in Atlanta. But you're also seeing guys come up from USL like Jackson Reagan and be great. You're seeing somebody like Nathan Harriel in Philadelphia, who's one of the best right backs in the league so far this season. And he was the reserve to an international in Mbaiso. You're seeing Ben Bender come in from college and be one of the most impactful attacking players in the league. The level of play underneath MLS domestically, and that's a lot of stuff. That's USL, that's NISA, that's college, that's academy. Like it's all those different things. It's so much easier for coaches to turn to those guys if needed now, and they can handle it and they can step in. You don't want to field a whole team like that, but when you can play Reagan in the lineup you had last night, he's protected, but he can also hang. And that's just a credit to the overall development around the country, but for him specifically, what's going on in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same curriculum, right? That's what you want out of your USL affiliate, that you could come in and just slide this piece in, but it doesn't happen all the time. So it is about coaching. It is about giving 100%. These guys the confidence. Brian Smetzer talks about giving players tools to succeed. That's what the team does as an organization. So it's credit. Because it's not simple to do as much as it sounds, but you're right. USL, Next Pro, all those things, you want to make sure that they can be your point of focus whenever you need a player. And it makes the league and the teams use all those resources so that salary cap is more valuable and you could put more talent on the field. It makes teams spend more on scouting, on developing, and I think that's important, man. If there are things that I do like about a salary cap league, is that it does make teams go out there and bring in more talent, look at local talent, find different places. It's not about pulling out your checkbook and say, all right, bring me Mbappe. No, it's not like that. It's literally about you going out there and really building a roster.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to this roster as we currently see it, you talk about the build and giving the players the confidence to succeed. Was there a player that at first glance you're like, okay, it's going to be a long road for this guy to really get what's going on here with the Sounders and the organization, but once they stepped out onto the field, they really caught it quickly? Or is this something that has just been a normal occurrence where they're brought into the system, the progression is there, and then they show up? Was there someone who was way ahead of the curve that you first thought wasn't necessarily going to catch all the information first off, or has it all been fairly consistent across the board with the development of this team?
I think it'll be fairly consistent. I mean, if I have to be frank here, I didn't think Jackson Reagan was going to be this good. I mean, he's just this big, lanky kid. He's putting a little bit of weight, a little bit of muscle mass, which is great. But quite honestly, when you first saw him at the USL level with Tacoma Defiance, I had no idea that process onto MLS was going to be so quick for him, that adaptation and picking up the speed of the game. I really didn't think so. So if there's a guy that is an example for me of someone who, when I first saw, I was like, he's all right. And all of a sudden he becomes this, great player immediately. I think that's him. And there's been opposites. Sam Rogers was a guy that a few years back was the guy that you were looking at. They're like, wow, he has the frame, he has the talent, but then he just kind of wasn't able to really foresee that talent and get to that potential. But, Jackson Reagan has been that guy for me, in which you just look at him, you didn't think he was going to be as great as he is, and he has been fantastic. That's what I mean. You got to trust his coaching stuff, and if they've done something, it's earned the benefit of the doubt, regardless of who it is. They could bring a guy tomorrow from, the street, and he just, you met him at the park, and you'd be like, oh, this guy's got to be good because they're bringing him in. That's how good they have been when it comes to scouting and developing players into the first team.
So Seattle's got the weekend off. NYC's got the weekend off. You look at MLS this upcoming weekend, and Western Conference teams are going to be looking at the battle in Los Angeles. LAFC and LA Galaxy, first place versus third. Chicharito firing on all cylinders. All of LAFC firing on all cylinders. What are you looking for in this one?
I mean, it's fun. I have to say that if I had my doubts about Cherundolo, those are kind of gone. He's really managed this locker room well. He's not afraid to, leave Chicho out if he has to, move Bella around, take Bella off. I mean, he has been fantastic. I think that he surrounded himself with a great group of assistants, right? In Reznov and Mark Dos Santos. He has a lot of guys that I think are allowing him to just work well with this locker room in general. So they've been fun to watch. And the LA Galaxy, they've started to play some Greg Vanney soccer, and it's good to see, right? I mean, the collective group is there. It is no longer a team that forces the ball anywhere, right? Like when they had Zlatan, they used to force the ball. Even with Chicharito, they used to force the ball. But now it's so much more about the collective group that it's really shined well. Really enjoy the Rovelson. He has really grown into this team. I think that him and Delgado have built a rapport and created more chemistry, and that just has made this team that much better on the defensive end, and also how quickly they get out wide. They have a lot of speed, but they weren't doing that before. It was slow, it was stagnant. No, that's no longer the case. It's very quick. Everybody's getting forward. They're finding Javier Hernandez in positions, and even Javier Hernandez has looked really well. I mean, the movement away from the ball that he was doing was great. And for somebody who has never been let's glorify El Chicharito and, oh my God, he's the savior. And when he came on, I wasn't as high as some people were. You got to give him credit because he has been good. And when he hasn't, he has worked on getting better. And if we saw something against Portland, was how good he is on his movement, getting off his marker, and he just had a great game overall.
His movement is world class. It always has been. It's what he's made his name on. There was the great video that I shared. I'm sure you saw it, of the end zone shot of how many different moves he had to make to create the space for that first goal. That's a tap in, but it's not. It's just a tap in. All the work that he had to put in to get to that spot. In the East, I think, El Tráfico is going to get all the headlines, obviously. But the other game of the weekend, I think, is in Pennsylvania. It's Philadelphia hosting Columbus. And we heard Caleb Porter kind of snarky with his halftime comments about Nashville, and they get a goal and they're defensive and they sit back and what's he going to say about going into what Philadelphia is going to do to his Columbus crew?
I honestly think that there's no better team in the league that can frustrate you as much as Nashville. So I think that he's going to get a little less of that. But at the same time, Philadelphia is not afraid to play a deep block, to frustrate you, not allow you to really connect. You got El Brujo Martinez just being that leader in that midfield and getting on your teamates.
How many times does El Brujo kick Lucas Zelleray in the first half?
Oh man, what are the odds on that one? Because I'll take the high bet. Over
I got 5 on that easy first half. Yeah. 5.
Yeah, absolutely, and that really does work well against guys like Solarian, that they want that easy open space. They want those bubbles in between the lines. He's not going to have it with a Brujo. He's going to have a pull, a tug. He might get a hair tug. He's going to be all over him. So that's what Philadelphia does well. I think that when it comes to the formation and the concepts, maybe not as deep as Nashville, but when it comes to individual players and how you get your attackers picked up in certain zones, it's going to be just as difficult for Columbus. And I thought Philadelphia was very good against Charlotte, and they're really starting to at least get some goals up front, and that's what this team really needed. I'm not ready to make Carranza the next best thing, but he did play a good game, and I think he's going to have at least a double-digit goal season if he could continue to get better and work kind of built off of this performance. But yeah, it's just good. This Philadelphia team always does things well, and I think they're going to give Columbus hell.
Let me go back out west for one of the other matches that I had in mind. And right now, and I know we haven't even hit the quarter pole of the season, but 2 teams below the playoff bar out west, Sporting and Nashville. And we know that Nashville is going to be on the road until 2027. But no, when Geodis is online, then they're going to hop into their new stadium. But Nashville, another road match. It's in Sporting. Sporting has been subpar, if we're honest about it, so far this season. So you've got a team that's still on the road that we anticipate is one of the top teams in the West against a team that we anticipate being in the playoffs. They aren't right now. They're below the playoff line, and it just hasn't been there for Sporting. When you look at Nashville and Sporting, what do you see?
I think that I'm not as concerned about Nashville as I am about Sporting, simply because the way that they manage their seasons, the way that they play, and some of those components that can still not just get better, but get there, are more visual than it is for Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City hasn't been good on defense at times, hasn't been good on offense. They have no power. They're kind of I don't want to call them a one-trick pony, but if it's not Shallowy or Russell creating some of that danger in the front end, then they're really anemic on offense, and they transition so slow. It's hard to watch at times, and you could see even the way the team moves is just not quite there. So Peter Vermees gets extremely frustrated in the sideline. I wish there was a Peter Vermees camera all the time so I could see how he reacts to some of this plays, because he really gets frustrated. So I really do think that Sporting Kansas City needs a spark plug. They need something different on that midfield to really get them going, and I don't know if it's there. So that's why I'm really concerned about Sporting Kansas City. And going to Nashville, man, I don't think Peter Vermees is going to be very happy with this game.
No, I don't either. Last one for you, Nico, because I know you got to go here in just a sec. Atlanta and Charlotte. You've heard the news with Atlanta and injuries. Ozzie Alonso, I know you posted a story about that at Pulso Sports. We hate to see what happened with Ozzie. I mean, fingers crossed that once the swelling goes down, they can take a look. It's something that you can get through without surgery and maybe see the season out. I don't know how many more years he's got. And a year of recovery might be all. We just don't know yet. But Atlanta's got to keep going. And you've got Santiago Sosa back. You've got questions about Joseph Martinez now. We don't have any answers yet on how he's feeling after he gets it looked at by the doctors who did the surgery on him in 2020. Third string goalkeeper blows out an Achilles. It feels like this team is cursed right now with injuries. And you go to Charlotte, who has, outside of the Philly game, been playing much, much better. Miguel Angel Ramirez figuring out what he has to work with. This could be a pretty tight game in Charlotte on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It will be a tight game. I think because of those injuries, Charlotte could have the upper hand anytime that you got to move so many pieces around, especially a guy like Jose Martinez that is, man, he gives you that. He's the gunpowder when it comes to this team. And without him, it's just difficult to score. And there isn't a guy like him right behind. So for as talented of a team as Atlanta is, if there's a position they aren't really deep in, is in that position, and that striker position, someone who could really be a threat, a goal scorer. So yeah, I feel for Pineda. I'm not too concerned about the midfield as much as I hate to see Ozzie go, because I think he was fitting in well. He was showing you what he could provide. He was, at the time he got hurt, one of the best players on the field. So with that and his leadership and everything, I really think that he would have been a good component for this team once they make a run at the end of the season. But a guy like Sosa, time to step up. I've been waiting to see him get on the field. I've been waiting to see that next step because I see the potential, but he still hasn't completely shown on the field. So maybe this is the perfect opportunity for him to put this team on his back, or at least that part of the field, which is so important for what Gonzalo Pineda does and what Atlanta does as a team.
Now, the good thing is, and you've seen this firsthand in Seattle, where Brian Schmetzer, for so many years assisted by Gonzalo Pineda, had injuries, had to solve problems, had to figure it out on the fly, and generally made the right decisions. Pineda's a guy who, you've told us through and through that he is a video nerd. He's going to dig into every possible solution, and he's not going to come into this game or any others with the injuries that Atlanta's dealing with without plan A, B, and C in how to fix it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there is a guy that he's already scouting in the Atlanta 2, or someone who he thinks could fit in a certain position. And I wouldn't be surprised if, depending on what's going on with Jose Martinez, if he doesn't maybe try to make a move, bring somebody in. But I do know that he is someone who's thinking a couple of games ahead. 3 steps ahead. So yes, he does have to come up with a way to kind of make it all work out. Marcelino Moreno, I think he's someone who can really help at least alleviate some of those lack of generation of soccer and creativity in the midfield, but you're still going to have to figure out what's going to happen with Jose Martinez, with Araujo out and everything. I mean, he's really going to have to be digging in and going deep into this roster and looking at different options to really make it happen. But if there's someone out there who can make it happen, it is Gonzalo Pineda, because of all the things that you just said, the way he studies the game, what he has been able to experience with the Seattle Sounders, that next man up mentality. I mean, that's incrusted in the DNA of anybody who's been a Seattle Sounder. So I think that he could definitely make it happen.
All right,
but
Nico.
It's not easy, though. It's not easy.
It's not. It's going to be tricky. It might not happen in 1 week. It might take a little bit of time. Nico, we got to get you out the door. You got places to be and people to see. Do your thing. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. We're going to have a good one. Take it easy. Hi to you, everybody. Have a good one.
Adios, Nico. Make sure you're following him, El Rolo NW, on social media. That's going to do it for us. We're back at 7 o'clock on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here. Big show at Elsewhere Brewing tonight, talking about the intersections between soccer and Atlanta and Argentina and Atlanta United and the Argentine consulate and everything that goes into that. If you are coming to the show tonight, if you are on the list to come tonight, because it will fill up, and the only way you guarantee yourself to get in is on the list, parking is at a premium. You probably want to consider Uber or Lyft, or getting dropped off if you can coerce somebody into doing that for you. There's not a lot of parking there. If you are coming and you're driving and you want to park, get there early. We're going to start at 7 o'clock. The doors open at 5. Festivities will start right after the doors open. It's going to be a fun celebration this evening. Special guests from Atlanta United. Really looking forward to it. You guys can watch at home starting at about 7 o'clock p.m. on twitch.tv/soccer down here. That'll do it for us. We'll talk to y'all later tonight. And then tomorrow we got our MLS weekend preview. We'll have our Friday free kick with the Beyond Goals crew. We'll talk to Mike Conti. We'll run through all the games in MLS. We'll give you some thoughts on all of those and more thoughts on Atlanta and Charlotte. Thanks for hanging out with us. Mucho platiel.
Mucho platiel.